A very good afternoon to all our viewers. Today's Education on Air will be presented by Mr. J. A. Shaw, the founder and managing partner of the Best Medical Business Solutions, a Florida-based medical practice consulting firm assisting practices with their operational, administrative, and financial health. A Temple University graduate, Mr. Shaw served as a professional motivational speaker in several industry organizations and is an advisory to Certified Aesthetic Consultant program. He is a certified medical business manager from Florida Atlantic University and a certified aesthetic consultant for the Aesthetic Practice Association. Mr. Shaw is the only one in the United States to hold all 5 levels of the Certified Aesthetic Consultant program through the Aesthetic Practice Association. Mr. Shaw previously received an Honorable Mention Award for OR Excellence in Medical Finance Management. And he has authored several articles in Surge Magazine, Modern Aesthetics, Med Aesthetics, Physician's Office Routine, Medical Office Today, Plastic Surgery Practice, Medical Economics, and Outpatient Surgery, and others. Mr. Shaw is also the founding member and editorial advisory board member of the American Academy of Medical Entrepreneurs and a founding advisory board member of entrepreneur.md. Hello, Mr. Shaw. It is great to have you with us on Entrepreneur.md Education on Air. Please do tell us more about your firm and, of course, on what you would be educating us with today.
Well, thank you for having me today. Once again, my name is Jay Shore, and I am the managing partner of the Best Medical Business Solutions, which is a medical practice consulting firm specializing in the operational, administrative, and financial health of medical practices. We specialize mainly in aesthetic medicine, but have recently branched out into anti-aging medicine and assist practices that even are non-core into the anti-aging and aesthetic medical practice industry. What we do is help practices select equipment. We help to negotiate equipment, leases, finances, training of staff, and anything that a medical practice goes through, because as you well know, many of the leaders of the medical practice community are very educated professionals, but nowhere in their internship, residency, and medical school training did they ever have any educational practice or management on how to run a business. So I and many of my colleagues help these physicians in running their medical practices. So what I would like to do today is explain how to select your new piece of equipment, whether it is your capital equipment, medical supplies, or lasers like the like. And let me start out by saying that medicine is a science. And we deal with the metabolic, the chemistry of the human body, and it's a way to heal the sick and injured. But in many of the aesthetic practices, it's a way to keep our patients looking young and beautiful. And it's still one of the most respected professions today, mainly because of the incredible amount of education that a physician has to go through. They go through their traditional 4 years of undergraduate education at a regular university. Then they go to medical school for 4 years. They may possibly do a 1-year internship, a 4-year residency, an additional fellowship, and then they're out on their own. So the one thing that most people say is, so I've graduated, now what? Do I join a medical practice? Do I hang a shingle out on the corner? Do I work for a hospital? Do I work for a large group? And most importantly, what we have to understand today is that medicine truly is a business. Now, when we first get into medicine and we go out on our own, we have to figure, why is this year different than all other years? And that's a very important question, because medicine changes, and the business of medicine changes each and every day. For example, Yellow Pages glossy magazines, advertising, and marketing the way that it used to be even a couple of years ago. And let's go back even 10 or 15 years ago when it was almost a disgrace to advertise and or market yourself as a physician. You came out of medical school and you went in and you just didn't advertise. It was basically referral, word of mouth, and if you were an insured provider, then that did it for you. And then came the big influx of yellow pages. The big ads in the yellow pages, which were very expensive. Radio, TV, newspaper, glossy magazines, and all of these have now become a thing of the past. So why is this year different than all other years? Because in order to be able to get yourself known and have an extreme presence in the industry, it's very important that you have website presence. And I don't even know how to explain to you how to get this done anymore, because there used to be the SEO and the AdWords and the pay-per-click, and then there was Hummingbird, and then there was Penguin, and now there's a thing called Pigeon. And it changes every day, where Google basically controls the method in which the search engines are able to find you. So what have you done differently this year and right now to combat this economy? Several years ago, we went through a major recession. And many people didn't have the economic wherewithal, expendable income in order to be able to afford the procedures that many of us in this medical industry are providing. So what did we do? We looked to consultants, we looked to website providers, we looked at different types of marketing gurus to help us. So what have we done differently this year right now? Well, the answer is quite simple. We have to follow the new algorithms and we have to follow the new trends in order to get our name out there, because what we've done yesterday isn't working necessarily today, and if we do get it to work today, it may not work tomorrow. So what are we going to do next year to maintain your financial balance? Well, there's many things that we can do. A, we can get good website providers and are able to help us with the search engine optimization. We're able to continue with pay-per-click, but that can only be at a certain level until organically our SEO is able to equalize and then exceed the amount of pay-per-click so that our websites can stand on its own. And what's my competition doing that they're not? And what I'm not? Well, they may already be one step ahead of the game, and they may already be doing that. They may have an incredible staff that's out there marketing for them. They may have patient and practice reputation sites so that people go on to these reputation management sites and post wonderful, wonderful things about them, which ends up getting organically optimized. And when people go onto the internet and they read all of these wonderful reviews, it can help them. Their staffs are engaged. They have them out there in the industry promoting them. So now we have to figure it comes time to even purchase some equipment, supplies, expendable supplies, disposable supplies. So what is our practice's need for different pieces of equipment? Well, there's an age-old question. Should I buy the equipment hoping that I'll be able to attract the patients, or should I already have the patients who have a need and then purchase the equipment? Well, that's a very, very difficult decision to make, because you can't buy from an empty shelf in a supermarket. So that old adage is, I've got to have the food on the shelf so that when people come in to buy it, I'm able to sell it. So does that mean that I need to have all the expensive lasers that I may not be able to afford right now, hoping that when I attract the patient, I'll have that modality to be able to treat them? Well, the problem is many of my competitors already have the equipment, and they're already advertising and marketing it. So now each one of these wonderful pieces of equipment, radio frequency, lasers, liposuction machines, they've all been on the market. but then they have a half-life, just like medications. What medications are out today, as like yesterday, may be obsolete tomorrow, and same thing with our lasers, same thing with websites and search engine optimization. Like the old algorithms, they're changing. So, with the equipment, how long have these pieces of equipment been out on the market? If they've been out on the market for many years, I can assure you they're already getting obsolete. And then one of the other questions we have to ask is that piece of equipment FDA approved? Is it safe and effective? And then we have to wonder, who is our competition? Who else is offering it in your area? If it's new modality, most likely you may be one of the first ones, and you can capture that when it comes time to purchasing it as being the new kid on the block. And that could be of a great benefit to you. Now, who else has it around the area, in your county, in the country? And can you be one of the industry leaders? Does the company that you're going to purchase it from have accessibility to post you on the internet, on their site, and as a provider? What's the going rate for the procedure? Do you even know what the actual rate is? Because you don't want to set yourself apart at so high that you may not even be able to get the business, even if you are the only one that has it. Are there consumables, disposables, and does it make sense for you financially to have that equipment? Now understand, there are high-end, high-level lasers that have disposables, consumables, and there are the lower-end lasers and radio frequency devices and other capitalized pieces of equipment. And sometimes you may be able to get in very inexpensively on the beginning, but the price of the consumables and disposables for every procedure that you do can make it very cost prohibitive, and you have to know whether or not, with your labor costs, disposables, consumables, and your monthly cost and maintenance for this piece of equipment, does it fit your needs and can it be profitable? Secondly, which of your practitioners are able to treat the patients with this equipment? Make sure that you understand the laws in each one of the states that you may practice in, because what might be legal in one state may not be legal in another. Example, some states only allow a doctor, a PA, or a nurse practitioner to operate a laser, whereas radio frequency devices can be operated by estheticians. In other states, it allows nurses and estheticians to operate these pieces of equipment. So make sure that you totally understand that just because you're being told that's what it is, that doesn't mean that that's what it is in your particular state. How much pain and discomfort is associated with this particular treatment? Be able to explain it to your patient and understand that we explain it, there is no pain, there is some minor discomfort. Now, who in your office determines which piece of equipment is best for your office? Is it the physician, the office or the practice manager, or additional staff such as your medical assistants and your estheticians? I believe it should be the sole decision of the physician with input from other ancillary personnel, because at the end of the day, it's the physician whose responsibility is going to take the brunt of any issues. What's the best time to purchase this piece of equipment? Time of the year matters because you have certain slow months. And in many of the practices, right now is probably one of the slowest areas in the summer. Families are taking their families on vacations. It's right around the Labor Day holiday. Some are driven by seasonality. It's down here in South Florida. You have what we call the snowbirds, and then when it starts to get cold, the people from the north come down to the south, and it's busier for us. In other areas of the country, 12 months a year, it might be the same. So you've got to determine, is it a seasonal issue? And if it is, then wait to purchase that equipment so that when the need happens, the amount of money that you have to pay each and every month for that piece of equipment is able to fit the need of the payment for that by the amount of business that you're able to get. Now, how long will this piece of equipment last? There is a time in your business's lifespan, because each piece of equipment has a lifespan as well. And that can be 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. And understand that sometimes when a manufacturer comes out with a piece of equipment, they may have an upgrade or an update a year or two after that. So if you're going to purchase it, try to negotiate that it also includes upgrades at the same time. Where is the best place to purchase equipment? Now, we all know that each and every time we go to an aesthetic conference, they are loaded with different types of vendors. And it's a wonderful thing because all of these vendors are able to supply us the knowledge. Many of them have webinars. Many of them have speeches that you can attend and lectures at the conferences, and it explains the different types of piece of equipment, and it's explained by medical professionals who may be medical directors on behalf of these laser companies. Do you want to purchase it from another physician? Understand that you have to really understand how long did this physician have the piece of equipment, that they have it maintained, and when they go to sell it, does the company that they purchase it from allow them to transfer ownership where that company will also service that equipment? The new thing now in the last several years is that major laser companies demand that there is a transfer fee in order for them to allow you to use it and service it. You may not be allowed to advertise it and market it if you didn't buy it from them. If you want to buy it from a website, usually you're buying it from a third-party laser company. I'm not saying that this is a wrong thing. What I am trying to explain is you don't know the history of this piece of equipment, and it may end up getting you a reasonable price, but you may not be able to get any maintenance unless you get even a third-party laser repair company, because the manufacturer may not allow you to have it serviced from them. And then again, are you purchasing it overseas? Many of the practices out there will sell it to a third-party company that then sells it overseas. Now, once you determine which piece of equipment is best for you, how do you know that you're getting the best price? I can't tell you how many times that I hear at these major conferences that there is a show special. Now, being on faculty of close to 10 to 12 different conferences out there and developing practice management certification programs from some of the major conferences in our industry, I have seen identical pieces of equipment with different names that come from the dental industry into the dermatologic industry from the same manufacturer. So now you have to determine that this is the piece of equipment you want, because they all will do the same thing. Many of them will do different things, but there are multiple platform pieces of equipment out there. For example, there are some that will do vascular and pigmented lesions. Example, telangiectasias and hemangiomas. They also will do an IPL platform. They'll also do a hair removal platform, and they also may do a nail fungus platform. You have the erbiums, you have the YAGs. Many of them have multiple platforms on there, and you have to understand which one of these pieces of equipment do you buy? And how do you know you're getting the best price? Many of you out there have a fear of negotiating. Some of you may feel you know how to do that, and I applaud you. Sometimes the best thing for you to do is have a third party negotiate it for you. And one of the things that we do as a practice management consulting firm is negotiate capitalized pieces of equipment, negotiate leases, negotiate real estate staff. We've even negotiated some of our clients' vehicle purchases. So if you have a fear in negotiating, let somebody else do it. If you don't have a fear, I'm going to guide you through some of the key indicators of negotiating and how to know that you're getting the best price. Understand the needs of the vendor and their objectives. Their main objective is to sell you a laser. Your objective is to buy the best piece of equipment that's going to be able to provide you the most efficacious results at the least price that you can afford, with the best warranty, and be able to provide you the most years of service. The vendor's needs and objectives are to sell you a laser. I want you all to understand there are always more lasers out there to buy than there are physicians to purchase. Don't be afraid to ask questions and insist on answers about the new piece of equipment that you're going to buy. Remember, every time you leave a conference, every time a salesperson leaves your store, leaves your office, there may always be another question that you have. So don't be afraid to ask these questions and insist on answers about what you're going to buy. And if the person you're going to purchase it from doesn't have the answer, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't purchase the equipment. It means that you need to get an answer from the higher ups or the people that are able to make the decision, and someone who can give you the answer for the question that you've asked. Be sure to keep an eye out for hidden details. For example, financing, rebates, returning it. Cooperative advertising, mean if you advertise it, are they willing to fund you? Are there marketing dollars? Will they put you on the physician's locator website? Who's responsible for the shipping and handling? Look for the hidden fees. One of the things I've seen recently in many of the agreements is that you are responsible for that laser the minute it leaves the factory. I insist that you negotiate a term that you are not responsible for that equipment until it has been received and has been inspected and it's ready to go. Because the bank or the finance company that you are going to negotiate with is going to start charging you from the moment you sign it and it leaves the factory, not when you start using it. So I really urge you to make sure that you understand the terms and conditions of the shipping. Lastly, when it comes time to return a piece of equipment because of maintenance, if you don't have on-site maintenance, who is responsible for crating? Who is responsible for the freight back? And who is responsible for the freight from the repair center back to you? I also urge you to make sure that you try to negotiate a loaner piece of equipment in the event that on-site maintenance cannot be repaired or it's down for an extended period of time, because remember, while this piece of equipment is out of service and it's not available to you to provide treatments and services to your patient, generating revenue, you still have to pay the bank for it. Now, always remember to prepare and compare details between this new piece of equipment and your other options and share them with your vendor. I want you to understand that many times financing terms that your vendor will provide to you, they may be compensated by the financing company, so that if you can get your own financing maybe at a cheaper rate, and maybe there is no penalty for early payment, some banks and finance companies will charge you a penalty if you decide to pay it off. I even urge practices to see if you can purchase equipment on a line of credit. So therefore, if you take an interest-only line of credit, you're only responsible for the interest that month, and if your practice doesn't have that money to pay for it that month, you're only responsible for a minimized payment, And if you're able to purchase and sell a lot of procedures, you may be able to make additional payments on that equipment, lowering your principal. Therefore, it lowers your interest rate the following months. If you're able to pay it off early, there is no prepayment if you negotiate that, and you may have saved thousands of dollars over the course of the term of the loan if that piece of equipment was $50, $80, or even $100,000. Now let me try and explain that you only have a 1 in 4 chance of convincing somebody. If it's your opinion against their opinion, you don't stand a chance. If it's your opinion against their facts, you also don't stand a chance. If it's your facts against their facts, you don't stand a chance. But if it's your facts against their opinion, that's your best way to negotiate. So have your questions, have your facts in order, so that when you approach different vendors, you're able to have the best business case in order for you to properly negotiate it. Now, understand that your vendor may also have a point where they may not be able to go any lower. Understand the levels of authority and the limits, and know when to ask for the manager. Understand that the person that you are dealing with many times may be a sales rep, a regional sales manager, but they also have a boss. And they may only have a certain level of authority, similar to that of a car dealer, where you go in and they always have to have another person come in and finally do the close. I consider that political impotence, meaning that the person you are negotiating with may only have a certain level of authority, and you may need to go to a higher up. When I work and negotiate rates, terms, conditions, and pricing with major manufacturers, supply vendors, disposable vendors, fillers, etc., I go directly to the highest level to understand that I want to help secure business for both parties, and let's cut to the bottom line, and therefore we don't have to go through many, many different types of negotiations. I urge you to put everything and insist that everything be put in writing. The reason for this is the only time that you're ever going to go back to something that's in a contract in writing is when a problem exists. Otherwise, there is no need to put it in writing. And many times you might say, what were the terms and conditions that we negotiated? I don't remember. If you have it in writing, you're able to go back, everything is succinct, and everything is legal, and we don't ever want it to go to a lawsuit, but at least you're able to go back and say, these are the terms and conditions we agreed upon. The days of the old handshake, unfortunately, are over. And many times I negotiate on behalf of my client, and there's line items that are omitted from the original contracts, and I bring them up by saying, I want this, and I want that item put in writing, and the salesperson will say, well, I explained it, and I'll handle it, and I'll give it to them. My answer is put it in writing so that we don't ever have to worry about that. Are you not getting exactly what you're looking for? There comes a time where the art of negotiation breaks down, and you're only a couple hundred to a couple $1,000s away, but yet you have a certain budget that you absolutely have to adhere to, and you can't afford another dollar. So it's like the old game show, deal, no deal. At the end of the day, you cannot be afraid to walk away from the deal. Many times when you walk away from the deal, the vendor may end up coming back to you and saying, I have discussed it with a higher level of authority, and we're able to give you the deal you asked for. I don't ever want anybody to get caught up once again in the show special. Because when you go to an industry conference and they tell you that there's a show special, but my personal experience, please understand that in the months of April, May, June, July, and then I'll be at another one in October, another one in November, and another conference in December, there's always a show special. And you may not necessarily have the need to purchase it when you are at that particular show. You want it, but you're not going to be able to get it going. You don't have it optimized on your website, and it may be several months before you can implement that into your practice. Therefore, you're going to start paying it from the moment you buy it. And you're going to have a couple of months of lower or no revenue before you're able to really secure any profitability. So you may be able to ask for deferred, I want it, but I don't want to pay for it for several more months. I want you to be careful of the 90 days of free financing, because when it comes down to 90 days of free financing, you are paying for it on the APR on the back end. Always see whether or not the vendor will loan you the piece of equipment for a month or so to try it out, to see whether or not it is efficacious, to see how your training will go. It also will allow you to generate some revenue to possibly pay for your first month or two of the payment for the piece of equipment you're going to buy. So remember, don't be afraid to walk away from the deal. If any of you have any questions, I urge you please to ask them now. I'll be more than happy to answer them to the best of my ability. Here is my contact information. We work on behalf of the client. We either can negotiate it for you on a retainer basis or on a percentage of the savings. I hope I've given you some insight on how to select your piece of equipment, and I'll be more than happy to open it up for any questions that you may have right now.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Shaw. Thank you very much for educating us, and that was very educational indeed. Let's move on to the questions we have received today. In fact, we have received 4 questions, so I will give you the first question. Does the price really make a difference in the quality of the product?
Well, there's the old adage that you get what you pay for. And I always believe that the more bells and whistles that are on a piece of equipment that had research and development, it usually tends to say that the higher priced piece of equipment probably does have a better quality piece of equipment, but you may not necessarily need that. There are inexpensive pieces of equipment that you may end up getting a lower priced piece of equipment that have high consumable and disposable rates. And therefore, it might not be a bad idea for you because you may not be able to afford the higher priced piece of equipment. The lower priced equipment might be able to afford you the opportunity to sell it, pre-sell it, and you may not be a bad idea to have the consumables and disposables. If you only have minimized platforms, then it's not maybe such a bad idea to be able to purchase a lower priced piece of equipment as well.
Okay, let's move on to the second question. Where can we check for reviews regarding these medical devices?
Reviews, you can go online and go on and type in the different types of pieces of equipment, and you can go on LinkedIn is very good and join some laser discussion, aesthetic discussion groups. If you want to look at all the different pieces of equipment, Medical Insight publishes a magazine every month, the Aesthetic Guide, and in the back it will list all of the industry's pieces of equipment out there right now and give an honest and a fair evaluation of each one. But many times you can go online and look and join some discussion groups and ask different medical practitioners who have this equipment to see.
Okay, your third question. Do we need to consider the warranty period? Does it really matter in the long run?
Absolutely. You have to understand that, many times pieces of equipment, if they're going to break down, they're going to break down in the very beginning. But lasers and capital equipment are very expensive. So try to negotiate, and this is what I do when I negotiate equipment on behalf of my client. I try and negotiate optional and additional years of warranty in with the equipment. If it can't be done for free, I try to negotiate a second, third year at a reduced rate. You see, the companies might say, well, they don't break down, so that's not an issue. Then my answer to that is, well, if they don't break down, then that really shouldn't be an issue, and you can throw the extra warranty in. Understand that a warranty is very important because you can afford to have the piece of equipment non-operable because you're generating revenue with this and you're still paying the financing while this piece of equipment is out of service. And like I said before, make sure if you can that you're able to get on-site or a loaner.
Okay. And the last question that we have you for today is, how can we identify products which have failed in the past for others?
Well, that's a very difficult question for me to answer. You're certainly not going to get it from the manufacturer. But if you go on, like I said, and you ask other physicians, one of the ways to do it is ask a lot of questions to your fellow colleagues at the different meetings and conferences. And I have found that joining discussion groups like LinkedIn and posting different questions like that will give you the best answer because you're really not going to get it from the manufacturers. You're going to get it from fellow colleagues.
Okay, thank you once again, Mr. Shaw, for the time spent with us. But unfortunately, our education on air comes to an end. And thank you for all our viewers for being here with us, and of course for giving those questions. I hope you got the answer that you were hoping for. Thank you once again, and we will see you again in another few weeks. So until we meet you again, it's goodbye from us.